All right, well, good morning. It's Noel, and getting everything moving for the day. Uh, gonna be reading Mark 7 and 8 this morning. Um, and I don't know, it's still pretty early, so I guess I don't have much to say. So I can just jump right in here. All right, so Mark 7. The Pharisees and some of the teachers of the law who had come from Jerusalem gathered around Jesus and saw some of his disciples eating food uh, with hands that were unclean, that is, unwashed. The Pharisees and all the Jews did not eat unless they gave their hands a certain or a ceremonial washing, holding to the tradition of the elders. When they came, when they come from the marketplace, they do not eat unless they wash, and they observe many other traditions, such as washing of cups, pitchers, and kettles. So the Pharisees and teachers of the law asked Jesus, "Why don't your disciples live according to the traditions of the elders instead of eating their food with unclean hands?" He replied, "Isaiah was right when he prophesied about you hypocrites, as it is written, 'These people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are but rules taught by men.'" You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to the traditions of men. It sounds like a message for the church, huh? And he said to them, you have a way of setting aside the commands of God in order to observe your own traditions. For Moses said, 'Honor your father and mother, and anyone who curses his father and mother must be put to death.' But you say that if a man says to his father or mother, whatever help you might otherwise have received from me is korban, korban, that is, a gift devoted to God. Okay, then you no longer let him do anything for his father or mother. Thus, you nullify the word of God by your tradition. You have by your tradition that you have handed down, and you do many things like that. Again, Jesus called the crowds to him and said, "Listen to me, everyone, and hang on, listen to me, everyone, and understand this: nothing outside of a man can make him unclean by going into him. Rather, it is what comes out of him that makes him unclean." After he left the crowd and entered the house of his disciples, asked him about this parable. "Are you so dull?" he said, or he asked. "Don't you see that nothing that enters a man from outside can make him unclean? For it does not go into his heart, but into his stomach, and then out of his body. In saying this, Jesus declared all foods clean. He went on, what comes out of a man is what uh, makes him unclean. For from within, out of men's hearts, come evil thoughts, sexual immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside and make a man unclean. Verse 24. Jesus left that marketplace and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it yet, but he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an evil spirit came and fell at his feet. The woman was Greek, born in Syrian Phoenicia. Okay, she begged Jesus to drive the demons out of her daughter. First, let the children eat all they want, he told her, for it is not right to make the children's bread, and toss it to the dogs. Yes, Lord, she replied, but even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs. Then he told her, for such a reply, you may go. The demon has left your daughter. She went and found her child lying on the bed, and the demon gone. Then Jesus left the vicinity of Tyre and went through Sidon, I don't know, down to the Sea of Galilee and into the region of the Decapolis. Here, some people brought to him a man who was deaf and could hardly talk, and they begged him to place his hands on him. After he took him aside, away from the crowd, Jesus put his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spit and touched the man's tongue. He looked up to heaven, and with a deep sigh, he said to him, some word, I don't know. It means be open. At this, sorry, I'm like barely waking up, and I don't know what in the world those letters even remotely could sound like. Uh, at this, the man's ears were open, his tongue was loosened, and he began to speak plainly. Jesus commanded them not to tell anyone, but the more he did, uh, so the more they kept talking about it. People were overwhelmed with amazement. He has done everything well, they said. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. Um, okay, Mark chapter 8. Sorry, I'm working on it. Whew. Some days you just wake up tired, I guess. It'll be fine. During those days, another large crowd gathered. Since they had nothing to eat, Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for these people. They have already been with me 3 days and have nothing to eat. If I send them home hungry, they will collapse on the way, because some of them have come a long distance. His disciples answered, but where in this remote place can anyone get enough food or enough bread to feed them? How many loaves do you have? Jesus asked. 7, they replied. He told the crowd to sit down on the ground. And when he had taken the 7 loaves and gave thanks, he broke them and gave them to his disciples to set before the people, and they did so. They had a few small fish as well. He gave thanks for them and also um, and told the disciples to distribute them. The people ate and were satisfied. After the disciples picked up 7 basketfuls of broken pieces that were left over, about 4,000 men were present. And having sent them away, he got into the boat with his disciples and went to the region of, uh, I don't know, Dalmanutha. Seems about right. The Pharisees came and began to question Jesus. To test him, they asked for a sign from heaven. He sighed deeply and said, why does this generation ask for a miraculous sign? I tell you the truth, no sign will be given to you. Then he left them, got back into the boat, and crossed to the other side. Verse 14. The disciples had forgotten to bring bread, except for the 1 loaf they had in the boat with them. Be careful, Jesus warned them. Watch out for the yeast of the Pharisees and that of Herod. They discussed this with one another and said, it is because we have no bread. Aware of their discussion, Jesus asked them, why are you talking about having no bread? Do you still not see or understand? Are your hearts hardened? Do you have eyes but fail to see, ears but fail to hear? And don't you remember when I broke the 5 loaves for the 5,000? How many basketfuls of pieces did you pick up? 12, they replied. And when I broke the 7 loaves for the 4,000, how many basketfuls did you pick up? They answered 7. He said to them, do you still not understand? They came to Bethsaida, and some people brought a blind man and begged Jesus to touch him. He took the blind man by the hand and led him outside the village. When he had spit on the man's eyes and put his hands on him, Jesus asked, do you see anything? He looked up and said, I see people. They look like trees walking around. Once more, Jesus put his hands on the man's eyes. Then his eyes were opened. His sight was restored, and he saw everything clearly. Jesus sent him home, saying, don't go into the village. Jesus and his disciples went on to the village of Caesarea Philippi. On the way, he asked them, who do people say I am? They replied, "Some people say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others, one of the prophets." "But what about you?" he asked. "Who do you say I am?" Peter answered, "You are the Christ." Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. He then began to teach them that the Son of Man may suffer or must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law, and that he must be killed, and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men." Then the disciples, or I'm sorry, he called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? If anyone is ashamed of me or and my words in his adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." Whew. You know, um, that was Mark 8. Uh, and man, I don't know if it's just being a little tired this morning, uh, or what. I My brain's having a hard time like comprehending and soaking this in, uh, or at least uh, understanding um, some of it. Uh, and yeah, yeah. Sorry, I'm just looking back over a little bit, um, and yeah, some of it's simple. I get it. As far as like clear anyway. Um, but uh, it talks when he talks about the yeast of the Pharisees and Herod. You know, I don't know. I've guess more or less. I think I've always thought of that. Just that. How that a little bit of yeast affects the whole loaf of bread. And Same way when you get somebody with, this Pharisee type person, like let's say involved in your church or whatever, um, or family or whatever it is, um, you know, that one person, that small amount of yeast there that one person brings for the whole, however many hundreds of people, that one person, that one Pharisee, that one legalist, uh, whatever, it just it can just affect everybody in there. And then like I talked about before, like those folks, these Pharisee type folks, just I don't know. It seems to me to think that they're right. They know the way, and that they have all the answers to everything, kind of deal. And if you disagree with them, or if you even uh, say something or talk in a manner that is potentially leading to disagreeing with them, it often doesn't go well. Yeah, and it's a sad thing. Um, that this is 2,000 years later, and we're still like people are people. Um, yeah, uh, like he talks about in sorry, the numbers are super small. Mark 7, 6 and 8, or 6 through 8, where he talks about Isaiah was right, when he prophesied about you hypocrites, and he says the people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. They worship me in vain. Their teachings are but rules taught by men. You have let go of the commands of God and are holding on to the traditions of men. And man, if that's not a trap that we can easily, I think all fall into, um, because we're never like staying at the same place in life, as far as um, our thinking and what's even happening in our life and all that kind of stuff. Things can change, and um, and they can change fast. And I think I don't know, maybe especially as you get older, um, we like to hold on to traditions of things, more. Um, and I'm not talking about like your Christmas tradition at home, or with your, grandparents, or, you know, what you guys do, that kind of thing, or what we do. I'm talking about like uh, in the church, in our our Christian life, um, what you know those are the traditions he's talking about. He's not talking about where you're going to eat Christmas dinner, or that kind of stuff. He's not arguing about Easter eggs or Christmas trees or whatever. It's not. It has nothing to do with any of that. This is about this is about um, basically going through like the motions of being a Christian. Go to church, sing the songs, whatever, and your heart's not. uh, close to him, just going through the motions. Um, you know, and then uh, I mean, I've seen this like play out in the church. Um, we had a older person at one point, um, who probably meant well. I don't know, and but had been there basically since the church was started. Um, and it's quite different now than it was when it started. Different people, different staff, different, pretty much everything. Um, and this person wanted to like bring in like all this stuff um, about the history of the church, and you know all this stuff about who founded it, and all that, and stick it on a wall. You know, okay, it could be innocent. It could be a remembrance. It could be like a this is what God has done, over this time, and that's fine. Um, it could be, uh, and sorry, sadly, like I think it tends to be more of a selfish part to it. Like I've been here since this thing started, and I've got pictures. I'm in the pictures, and blah 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 blah. Like, let's stick all this on the wall so all these new people know that you know I've been here longer than everybody. It could be like that. Um, you just don't know. Um, but again, like it kind of comes back to this. Like this is truly like there's plenty of ways, the words of your testimony, to talk about what God has done. Um, uh, so I don't know. I think it's just unnecessary, to put this stuff on the walls in a church. Um, of look at us, and this is the beginning kind of thing. Um, because one, you can talk about it. Two, the bigger issue to me is if you have 500 people at the church and there's 5 or 10 that were there how many years and decades ago, um, when it started. you know the other 490, 495 folks, like, they're starting now. They're going through life now. They're you know trying to walk through this at this point. um and sure, like, occasionally mentioning something about you know God's faithfulness when this place was initially started, and bringing it about and all of that. Fantastic. Um, but I mean, I've seen folks like they can't stop. They cannot let it go. Uh, I mean, it's literally, I mean, like literally, you can have a room of 90+% people who were not there decades ago, and there's still that very 5 or 10% of them uh, that it's almost like uh, you know what it's like. Uh, and I'm terribly sorry if you're one of these folks that you know loved high school, but it's like that. It's like elderly senior citizens, you know, that age group, unable to let go of high school. It's like we're not there anymore. Like it's very it's not exact, but kind of similar to that. Uh, and man, doesn't that just keep you stuck? Um, I don't know. To me, it's just odd, and then this kind of just reminds me of that. It's like we're you know we honoring God maybe with our lips as far as saying the right things, and singing the right things and all that. But if you know our hearts are hung up on whatever else, including the traditions in the church, then we're you know as he would say, far from God. Or if we're hung up on following the rules taught by men, same thing. Far, far from him. Anyway, yeah, that's interesting. Um, and yeah, as far as I'm aware, the situation of like wanting to hang or wanting to put that kind of stuff up, um, in the church is it's one of those things. It's like it's not necessarily wrong, but also like possibly not the best. You know, I mean, it's almost more like we want people to come here and experience Jesus and be saved, you know, for eternity, or do we want to put tradition, history, all of that, our local history, that type of thing, at the forefront, and then when these people come in that don't know Jesus, don't know what's going on, don't know why a church would put this stuff up, all this whatever, like they immediately already are excluded, and that's exactly what the Pharisees did. Like, you're not following our rules. Like, you're Jesus, like it's clearly upsetting them by not following what they said, was the rule. Uh, I don't know. That's the thing. A huge lesson. Probably something that we don't even get taught or we don't teach that much. Um, you see, like, and if you notice in here, Jesus is putting people above, you know, arguments with the Pharisees, and you know, uh, he's continually putting uh, sinners, people that need healing, like, people that just need to be taught, all this stuff. Like, he's continually putting them, uh, making them like the priority for his ministry, not making necessarily like debating with church tradition the primary thing for his ministry. Uh, like, it's just odd. Like, if you notice some of these, you know, Jesus, it'll say something like Jesus went to here and was teaching the people, or healing the people, and some Pharisees and teachers of the law showed up. It's like, yeah, it's not like he was running around looking to debate these guys on Christian or even Jewish doctrine, this and that. Really, they kept showing up and interrupting. Seems like, I don't know. I don't know. I think when churches truly focus on people, uh, teaching people like Jesus teaching them, uh, helping people, you know, whether it's whatever way, recovery, child stuff, whatever way, helping people. Like, these are modeling, these are like following after what Jesus did. But you've got to teach people, and then you've got to uh, care for them and authentically care for them, not in some superficial way. Like, I care for you because of Jesus and the law. Here's why, you know. Um, yeah, 'cause that's that. I think that's one thing we don't understand. Uh, you know, you don't have to be a Christian person to be kind and help people and all that stuff. Um, but uh, in doing that as a Christian, we have a purpose, and that's what Jesus does. And you go, like, these people get healed or get help from Jesus, and I don't know, it it is it's life changing for them. That's what it sounds. You know what I mean? It's difficult for us to always do that, of course. Um, but in helping people and showing them love, like love of Jesus, then I think whether it's at that moment or down the road, there is possibility of that being life changing, uh, and eternity changing for them. So anyway, I don't know. I think that like that kind of stuff is just um, higher priority than a lot of our traditions. I don't know. Anyway, well, I appreciate you being here for another day, and I will be back tomorrow to keep reading in Mark. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think I have kind of a busy day and work and a lot of dog stuff going on. Um, and well, yeah, I mean, in case you ever wanted to consider breeding dogs, besides all the expense and all this and that I've kind of mentioned before, um, the other thing with that is you are basically a dog maid. So, like you can kind of train help your kids learn how to pick up after themselves, or clean or whatever. The dogs aren't going to do that. They're not going to sweep. They're not going to mop. They're not going to, and so, um, yeah, that's a part of the job description of somebody that's breeding dogs, and it's a 7 day a week deal. So like you gotta be ready for that. But anyway, not too bad. It's not definitely nothing to complain about. This is part of the deal. So that's on the agenda for today, and um, yeah. So you guys have a great day, and I will see you tomorrow. All right, bye.